I remember the first day at Northwood High like it was yesterday. The air hummed with that specific blend of newness and dread, a scent of fresh textbooks and nervous anticipation. Transferring mid-semester always felt like walking into a movie halfway through, trying to catch up on the plot, hoping you wouldn't trip over a crucial plot point you'd missed. My new English teacher, Mrs. Davies, a kind woman with a voice like warm honey, motioned me to the back of the classroom. "Anastasia," she said, her smile inviting, "you can take the desk by the window, over there. Perfect view for daydreaming if you're not careful." I smiled faintly, clutching my new binder, and made my way through the maze of occupied desks. Each chair seemed to swivel subtly as I passed, dozens of eyes tracking the new girl. The desk was tucked away, almost hidden by a large potted fern. As I approached, a chill, not from the open window, seemed to settle around it. It was an old desk, scarred by generations of students, its dark wood worn smooth in places, rough in others. I pulled out the chair, the legs scraping faintly on the linoleum, and as I leaned forward to place my binder down, my gaze caught on something. Not just the usual carved initials or declarations of undying love that adorned most school desks. These were different. My fingers traced the lines, faint yet unmistakable, etched deep into the wood. "Help me." My breath hitched. The words were small, almost shy, but the urgency in them was palpable. I looked closer. Beneath that first plea, another carving, bolder this time, more desperate. "She watches." And then, scrawled almost frantically, partially obscured by an older, shallower cut, "Run." A shiver ran down my spine. The classroom hummed with the gentle chaos of a typical Monday morning, but around my desk, the air felt strangely heavy, silent. These weren't idle doodles. They were whispers from the past, carved in desperation. I sat there, my hand still resting on the scarred wood, the words burning under my fingertips. My initial thought was that some mischievous student had a dark sense of humor, but the tone, the sheer raw feeling embedded in those crude letters, felt too real, too urgent for a prank. "Help me. She watches. Run." Who was she, and why did someone need to run? My mind raced, conjuring images of some forgotten drama, a story etched into the very fabric of the school. Was it an old secret, a cry for help that had gone unanswered? It felt like something out of a book, but here it was, right under my hand. The bell rang, jolting me back to the present. Mrs. Davies began her lesson, her voice a soothing drone, but I found it hard to focus. My eyes kept drifting back to the carvings, to the silent plea that no one else seemed to notice. During a lull in the lecture, a quiet moment as Mrs. Davies wrote on the board, I raised my hand. "Mrs. Davies?" She turned, a slight frown creasing her brow, expecting a question about Shakespeare. "Yes, Anastasia." I hesitated, feeling a bit foolish, but the words needed to be spoken. "Excuse me, but whose desk was this before me?" I tried to sound casual, as if I were just curious about the history of the furniture. Mrs. Davies paused, her chalk hovering midair. She turned fully, her gaze sweeping across the room, then settling on my desk, her expression softening, almost with a hint of confusion. "Oh, that desk," she said, a small, thoughtful hum escaping her lips. And then, her voice dropping slightly, "That desk has been here for years, Anastasia, but no one's ever sat there before." The words hung in the air, heavier than any silence. My heart gave a lurch. No one had ever sat there? How could that be? It was a perfectly functional desk, albeit a bit worn, but it was in a classroom, in use. This wasn't a storage room. I felt a cold dread begin to coil in my stomach. The "help me," the "she watches," the "run," they weren't messages from a previous occupant. They were messages from what? From whom? And if no one had sat there, then who carved them? And why were they on the desk I was now sitting at? The rest of the day passed in a blur of disquiet. Every creak of the old school building, every shadow stretching across the classroom floor, seemed to hold a new, unsettling significance. I kept glancing at the desk beside me and the one in front, wondering if their occupants saw me, the new girl, perched atop a piece of furniture that supposedly held no history, yet screamed of hidden trauma. I found myself wondering if I was overthinking it. Perhaps the desk had been stored somewhere and just brought in. But Mrs. Davies' tone, the slight bewilderment in her eyes, suggested otherwise. It felt like she truly believed no one had sat there. That night, the words, "no one's ever sat there before," echoed in my mind. They were more chilling than the carvings themselves. The carvings suggested a story, a victim, a watcher. But the teacher's words stripped away even that. They suggested an emptiness, a void where a story should have been. In the following days, the mystery of the desk became a quiet companion. I found myself looking at it differently. It wasn't just wood and metal. It was a silent witness, a canvas for an unseen plea. I never found answers about the carvings. No one else seemed to notice them, or if they did, they dismissed them as old graffiti. But what lingered wasn't fear, not entirely. It was a profound sense of melancholy. The desk, sitting in plain sight, yet unseen, unheard. Its silent cries for help, etched into its surface, were a stark reminder of how easy it is for distress to go unnoticed, to become just another part of the background noise. The "she watches and run" faded into the background of my thoughts, replaced by the chilling truth of no one's ever sat there before. It wasn't a ghost story or a thrilling mystery. It was a quiet tragedy, a desk holding secrets that no one bothered to ask about because no one believed anyone had ever been there to leave them. It taught me something profound, something beyond the usual lessons of English class. It taught me to look closer, to listen more intently, to see the quiet messages that people, or even inanimate objects, might be trying to send. Sometimes the most important stories are not spoken aloud, but etched silently, hoping someone, anyone, will finally see them. And perhaps in a world that moves so fast, where we're all so absorbed in our own narratives, the real horror isn't the presence of something malevolent, but the absence of connection, the quiet, chilling reality that sometimes, even when someone is screaming for help, they might feel like no one's ever sat there before. So, take a moment today, look around. Is there a desk in your life, or in the lives of those around you, that's silently screaming for help? A plea etched into their demeanor, their quietness, their sudden change. Are there hidden messages you might be missing, simply because you assume no one's ever been there before? It's a thought that has stayed with me long after I left Northwood High, and I wanted to share it with you, hoping it might spark a similar reflection. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever encountered a similar quiet mystery, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, or hit that like button to let me know this resonated. And if you want to hear more stories that delve into the quiet corners of the human experience, consider subscribing. Until next time, stay curious and keep looking for the stories whispered on the wind.